Today we have Scott Clipper. He's the founder of Trot My Tot. We're really excited to learn about his entrepreneurial journey and also how he's using vibe coding in this process. So thank you, Scott, for coming, and thank you everyone else for showing up. So Scott, as you know, I have some very specific questions, but if you want to give an intro.
Yeah, my background is really I traded commodity hedge fund strategy throughout that career. I've been working at my current firm for 13 years. And throughout my career, I've also added a master's degree in quantitative modeling. Between jumping from a hedge fund strategy. Prior to that, I was managing a lot of our operations infrastructure, which included like a PG database. In a finance or hedge fund setup, it's important to have good data structure for like pricing, security master, P&L, data, performance attribution, things like that. So like that's really where my kind of technical, I would say, expertise began, where I was kind of the middleman between every piece of the company, whether it's between operations and accounting, operations and the traders, operations and the actual IT team. Like I touched every piece of the business. On the side of that, call me a serial entrepreneur or entrepreneur, whatever term you want to use. But I've always had, this knack of having certain ideas. You go back to your college days or my college days. I graduated in 2010, and back then it was like, oh, what app idea do you have? Right? I have this idea, that idea, and I actually had the domain, which was drunklastnight.com, and it was kind of the first iteration of your social sharing of drunk stories, pictures, and videos. I had more of a spin of it of terms of like social awareness or drunk driving awareness and things like that. But it was really one of the earlier social kind of platforms like that. The biggest problem I had was I had zero technical skills. So on the fly, I was teaching myself HTML. We built it in WordPress. I think I paid a fellow student like $5,000 to just put me together like a WordPress template for people to upload stories or upload videos. And going back, if I had the tools available to people today with that idea, I think it would, it could have been a very different scenario. But all that effort, putting in the work, putting the work in that stuff, and my career has led me to this, I believe. But yeah, you fast forward, what would it be, like 15 years, 16 years, and anyone could have an app idea and build at the very least a prototype, right? And I'd probably say last spring, I was just getting into this AI journey. You're reading about all these vibe coding startups. I think Claude was like fairly less popular then. But you were just, I went to a conference, a hedge fund conference, and it just seemed to me like everyone was talking about AI, but in practice, nobody was really doing anything in AI. And there was a lot of talkers, less doers kind of thing. And I just went down this rabbit hole. I'm like, what's going on in finance and AI? What's going on in like just regular space? I think in like August there was an article about Lovable raising a certain round for a certain amount of money, and I was like, oh, this just sounds interesting. Let me look at it. I didn't even like really analyze Replit versus Lovable or versus anything else at the time. I was like, oh, this article sounded good. I don't have that. Like, if I'm not working, I'm taking care of my two kids. I have no time in between. I said, let me just sign up for an account and see what I could do with this Lovable tool, right? So that was in August of 2026. And I said, let me just see what I could build. I never thought that I would actually build a working product. I thought I'd build a prototype, right? But the further I got, I saw, you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. I just kept prompting, and you had to learn how to prompt properly. It wasn't necessarily I mean, there were times where the system got into loops or built something I didn't want, but it was really that technical background that I built over my career, understanding like how I needed to connect my Supabase platform to the Lovable account, how I needed to sign up for a resend email account to track my emails. And also all that work along, whether it be like my Drunk Last Night website or the work I learned in my career, like that, again, that brought me to the spot to be able to connect those pieces. I like to tell people, like, people are like, oh, you could vibe code anything. I'm like, not necessarily. You could vibe code probably your prototype. You could vibe code probably 80% of the way there, maybe, but there's going to be hurdles where you just get stuck. And if you're not willing to like get your hands dirty and just figure it out, don't care that it's broken. I think the fact that I'm not like a computer science tech person actually makes you a better fit for the thing, because you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna vibe code it and see what it spits out. If it's something that doesn't look right, then I could kind of debug it and go into that, go into it further." I remember just the biggest hurdle was just like connecting payments, right? Which was through, now they have like an automated connector, right? Where you just click a button, you connect to Stripe. I had to like get the password, the private key password, plug it in, troubleshoot it, test it in a test account. All of a sudden I was like sending, like, I didn't realize I was, sending money out of my Chase account. Like, obviously I was just paying myself, but it was just like troubleshoot testing experience. So again, connecting all those pieces were just a key to making it a successful project.
No, that's great, and thank you for highlighting why you picked Lovable versus another one. And I'm curious if you could build anything in a way with these vibe code tools. How did you land on Trot My Tot and this problem, not something else?
Yeah, so I'm currently probably, I would say, active with like four different ideas that I have. I have a notepad of just various ideas. Um, this is more of a personal need. I just, made my Facebook post of the Business Insider article saying, I've watched so much Shark Tank to know the best ideas come from solving a personal need, right? So I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. Both me and my wife are full-time workers. She works in the hospital. I'm on the training desk. We both have to be to work early. We both have to be at work late. And our issues aren't, we don't want a 40-hour a week full-time nanny that doesn't have anything to do during the day when my kids are at school. I need someone to get my kids to their school at 8:30, 9 a.m. And then school ends at 2:50. And then I needed someone to pick up my kids and take them to their ballet class, to their soccer class. And that just like didn't exist. And before there was vibe coding, I still went to GoDaddy.com and I still went and purchased TrotMyTot.com because I had the idea, right? And I just didn't have the time to build it. I would, in addition to myself, I would be in in Manhattan, there's the Upper East Side moms Facebook group. And I was in that group and I saw people posting the same needs that I have. Who can pick up my kid tomorrow and bring him to, soccer? Who could bring him to basketball? Who can do this? And I would just, for like 2 years, I was taking screenshots of all these posts, just like validating in my head, like this is a real need, right? Um, so given that it's just not me, this would be my focus. Like I wanted to solve this problem. I would speak to parents, at the school, and they'd be like, everyone would be like, oh yeah, I have that, I need that also. And so I ran with this. I had a working prototype by this school year, September 2026, and I went ahead and we have the WhatsApp first grade chat, put it in there. We have the Facebook groups. All the activities. I would wear my Trot My Tot hat and just explain like what it is. Get that circle to sign up. Same within, it was all kind of word of mouth where like those families would also tell their nannies about it when they had extra time. Like you could sign up, and then the nannies would tell their friends, right? So it's very much a word of mouth success in terms of user growth. I think when the Business Insider article came out, which was just like a couple of weeks ago, I was at 600 something. I'm now crossing 750 users. We're going to book our 200th trot soon. And I think the most important thing is that the Business Insider just validates my idea, right? It just brings me credibility. I'm not just that crazy dad that came up with this, app who's telling you to get somebody to go take your kid to an after school program. There's actual validation from obviously a source like Business Insider. And also I have, now almost 200 trots and reviews on the platform that show it's a working product.
Oh, that's great. I love the organic beginning there, where you're just reaching out to group chats, and then bring the swag, the hat there to promote. That's awesome. Answered a question I had about marketplaces, how you're building it. Um, I'm curious how, like, the economics of it. Did you give free service at first, or did you charge from day one? How did you get your first dollar at the door?
Yeah, very much, and I probably still do have too much of like, when I say old school, it's like early days Facebook or like You think I remember, well, I don't know if anyone's watched the Bumble movie on Hulu where they had the counter of the user growth and like everyone always just cares about users. I'm very much of that mindset. So for at least until 2027, it was free for everything. And anytime someone signed up, I'd reach out to them and try to just help them find a trotter. And it was just it's just a more of a facilitation for free. And I just decided to just book through the system, pay through the system. Um, and then as I started getting committed users or people recommending it to other people, I said, all right, I can't just, so there's still the free tier. You make a user account, you could send a few messages, you could connect, you could search for trotters. Um, and that is still very much the focus. I just focused on user growth, right? I have introduced some paid tiers, uh, which are on the parent side, we call those top tots, and on the trotter side, we call them verified trotters, right? Um, so it's more of a provides a white glove service. You're not limited to the amount of messages you could send in a day, and people who use the platform, you know, it's a much cheaper option than going to like the sitter cities. I don't know if anyone knows that, or like these other care.coms, which is, whatever price level, it's just way more than what this service is. But yeah, to as much as I didn't want to operate everything at a cost, it's more of just like, okay, how can I keep growing the features, growing the user base without like spending too much money in the red, right? Um,
Well, that makes sense. So right now, would you say it's a matchmaking service or a messaging service, and not really like yeah, I think of like a Lyft or Uber app where you can see where your car is, so you can't really see where the map is of these people walking.
Yeah, so there is GPS when a trot is active, but the difference from Uber, you see like when the cars are arriving and leaving. I would like to say that is in like 2.0. Like I have a goal of having a proper iOS app by school year September 2026, where the GPS structure in an iOS app is much easier than a web app. Um, but yeah, within the actual trot itself, when it's active, you can have the GPS tracking. Um, I would say, as opposed to Uber, it's similar to a dating platform. And again, I go back to that Bumble example where when you sign on as a parent, the first setting that's set up is that you can reach out to a trotter first. The trotters can't blindly reach out to parents, and you can't get spammed like you may do on Facebook groups. There is a feature where you, again, part of the free tier, where you turn on you're looking for a trotter, and then those trotters can reach out to you. So again, it's more of a facilitation, matchmaking. I still encourage you to like speak to the trotter you're hiring and not just it's not you're not booking an Uber blind. You're hiring the right person that fits your family's needs. So I would say it's a combo of Uber slash dating application solution.
Tell us how Business Insider found you, how you got featured.
Yeah, so they have been doing a vibe. Businesses has been doing a vibe coding series, a number of articles. And I ended up getting in touch with one of the authors of those articles, who like we just had a great conversation. And he said, yeah, it's like originally he was like, this seems more sophisticated than a vibe coding project. I said, yeah, like this is more about building a platform and solving a need and, understanding how to connect, all the pieces to the puzzle. And yeah, we were able to thanks to them create a good story. So, um, yeah, shout out to Noah for the write up, which was very good.
And then how has the business changed since the article?
At the start of the article, we were at around 600-ish users. We're now at 750. The interest, you reached out to me, for example. People are just more interested in the story itself or how it became, how it is, or how it became the platform it is. And again, I think the main thing is just the validation piece where I'm not just that Upper East Side, a dad around town wearing his Trot My Tot hat, walking around. It's, this is a real product. Um, and providing real solutions, right? I'm not the only one that needs somebody to get their kid to an after school program.
What advice would you give people with vibe coding? And then the other one is running a business that's a marketplace.
I would say, there are some times you just one, like if you have an idea and believe in something that you think, like there's nothing stopping you, right? like all these people always you can always come up with seven different excuses, and not to like talk about myself in this situation, but like I said, I'm either working or I'm taking care of my kids, and like very few time in between. I would say there was this is a typically a 12 to 2 a.m. Hobby that turned into this. And sometimes when level will spit out something wrong, I spent 2 to 4 a.m. trying to fix what it did, right? But I just wouldn't just not about my experience, but just generally, don't be hesitant to try something. And like just play around with the tools, right? I think if I had, the two main tools I was using was like ChatGPT and Lovable, and then as like the technology is just catching up with each other every week. So like Lovable was good at this, and all of a sudden Claude Code came out with that, and all of a sudden Replit came out with this, and um, just try to be interchangeable on how you build things, right? Um, because you may think you hit a roadblock, but there's definitely a solution somewhere. Um, and again, don't be scared to get the hands dirty and figure it out. You can't rely on the vibe coding tool to build a real solution for you. It'll be great at building a prototype, but it won't get you 100% of the way there.
Scott, did you find any resources to help you from a business operational perspective?
I've always had personally the business intellect. I always, again, I'm on the finance side, reading articles about markets every day. Um, I always regret, getting a business degree in undergrad versus a computer science degree, because like business stuff, you could read a bunch of articles, you can read books, you can watch Shark Tank, you could learn that stuff on the fly. And there's no better way of like, again, learning it while you're actually doing it beyond the drunk last night example. After college, I did the sunglasses business and within 3 months, I got these sunglasses in the store. I said, oh, somebody will, you could sell, something to anyone, right? Like, I would never think somebody wanted to buy these plastic sunglasses from me. So again, putting the work in yourself and doing it is the best way to learn. I learned X number of things in my career with databases and uh, programming and coding. I think uh, I did myself a disservice in the Business Insider article where I'm quoted saying like I'll probably break the code. I think even someone heckled me in a comment in one of the Business Insider, and the truth is like I'm lucky enough in my job where I'm working with very sophisticated people who are proper programmers, have the proper PhDs. So not to say that I'm not a coder, but I wouldn't designate myself as that. And I would correct that one quote. But yeah, you just gotta, in all facets of business, if you're trying to run a business, you have to get your hands dirty everywhere and be willing to.
So, a question from the audience is, what kept you going in overcoming these app development setbacks that you mentioned?
I would tell you there's nothing more frustrating than trying to instruct, whether it be an AI or even like a human at work, like people I manage or intern. Like there's nothing more frustrating when you tell something to do something and it doesn't want to do it. Um, my biggest issue is it would do something and I would stay up until I fixed it, right? And um, that's more motivational than for me than a setback is running into those obstacles, because any of you right now could say, oh, let me copy this this Trot My Tot app. And one, like if you don't have the drive to push through those hurdles or figure it out, like you're gonna stop. And two, like another benefit I have is I am my marketplace, right? I am that guy at the kid activities, in the Facebook groups. Anytime someone has this issue, I'm commenting. So just still seeing all that stuff that people need, there was a demand for it, is motivational. Anytime I see someone sign up, it's motivational. Um, and I'm always asking my users for feedback. Like, do you want a feature? We added um, elder care as a trotting feature because somebody just signed up and posted it. They wanted someone to walk their uncle to their doctor appointment. I said, oh, that's a good idea. I went ahead, I bought strollmysenior.com, strollmysenior.com forwards to trotmytot.com/eldercare, and another opportunity.
I love that. And I was going to ask you about that expansion. for elder care. So thank you, Scott. Another question: what are some of the key factors for selecting a good vibe coding tool? You mentioned Lovable. Would you pick it again?
If I was to start today, based on like everything I read, it would probably be Claude Code, I think. Um, and again, I picked Vibe Code because that was the latest article I read about a series raise, and I just started looking at the website, and I said, let me sign up and use their whatever. I think it was like 50 free credits at the time, and just once you're in, and kind of thing. Um, but they're all, like I said, technology is catching up to each other every single day. They're all starting to create MCP servers to each other. So I think you connect like your Claude to your Lovable, which is something I want to try to do. So I think it's interchangeable, um, just from a tech standpoint and where the tech has gone. I think there are some features, because it advanced so much, there's actually some features that I like better before it got so advanced. So like when you default your like default new Lovable project is in the cloud, that their own cloud, where when I first started with Trot My Tot, it was like, no, you need a Supabase account and connect your Supabase account. And for me, manually going into like the SQL server and like looking at tables is way more easier than like dealing with Lovable's like cloud that it's harder to access and things like that.
Real quick, are you looking to launch a native app in Android and iOS, Scott?
Yeah, that's the goal for the school year starting September 2026. I hope to be able to. Um, there through Lovable, it's not seamless. I think right now I'm in a process of like using Capacitor. If anyone is familiar with, feel free to talk to me offline. But that's where I am right now, and there seems to be there's definitely good opportunities of making an iOS app, whether it's for like the trotters with this younger generation and having proper notifications versus email notifications. I think there's more opportunity to be had, and hopefully you guys see an iOS app launch this fall.
Thank you, everyone, for attending, asking great questions. And Scott, thank you for sharing your story and inspiring others with your vibe coding journey. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. Thanks for having me. If anyone, happy to do follow-ups if anyone has more questions.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. See you later. Bye.